Welcome to what I'm calling the Fart Fetish Podcast. If there's a better name that comes along in the future, maybe I'll go with that. But I really wanted to kind of control the narrative around the term fart fetish, because if you Google fart fetish right now, you get a lot of basically just SEO grabbing either articles, and if you add podcasts to the search result, podcasts that either had one guest on that had a fart fetish, or it goes through the sexual explanation of fart fetish. But I didn't see anything actually coming from the perspective of actual people within the community, people who can actually take this issue with some semblance of sincerity. Like, I'm looking at articles that pull up, and unless it was written by a more academic association, they tend to immediately either start with a joke, they use graphics or memes, which could be which I understand why they're done, but at the same time they're not taken with respect for the people who actually may be looking for this information. The people who stumble upon it accidentally when they're browsing, maybe they'll like the cat meme of farts in your general direction. But the people who actually have eproctophilia or fart fetishism, they, I think, would appreciate something more serious tone, something a little more professional. And that's why I made eproctophilia.org. And it's not a sales pitch. There's no ads on that site. Nothing costs any money there. I just did it because, one, I knew Wikipedia, which had a brief, like 1 or 2 paragraph article, I think, if I recall, is now just nothing but a redirect. Because it doesn't matter to Wikipedia and the editors there, the moderators there. Vomiting fetish can have a page. It's 1 paragraph or 1 or 2 sentences. But eproctophilia, no, that doesn't need a page on Wikipedia. It doesn't deserve one. So that's the reason I'm kind of doing this podcast, is because I'm a little bit sick of everyone else, people who aren't fetishists, controlling the narrative of this fetish. Because when we don't speak out, when we don't have our own blogs or anything else that's not pornography, essentially, we don't get to control the conversation. I don't think that's a place we want to be. I don't think that's going to help us. I know many of us are afraid. I go by closet fetishist because it's something to fear, I suppose. But you know what? Nothing good is going to come from hiding who you are and not being honest to people and yourself about who you are and what you enjoy. That's why I did the Ask Ezra podcast, because he's a friend of mine. I edit the show, and I wanted to use the opportunity as a way to say, here, look, This is the face of the fetish. Not the only face, but it's a face. It's not someone who has to use a pseudonym or just talk in a audio only format. This is I wanted to put an actual face to this fetish, so people could see that we're not just perverted messages on FetLife, or just constant, like, I'm looking for someone to fart in my face in my area, I'm this old and I have a big dick, or whatever. Like, I want people to know that we're normal people. We may have the enjoyment of an abnormal thing, but we're still at our core normal human beings. Does that matter to the majority? No. It's gonna, trolls are gonna troll, people are gonna, do what they do. And that's there's no way to stop that, because you know what? As much as I think people want to, move forward in humanity and with positivity, it's not the case. Many people are just really looking to dunk on people, to laugh at them, to humiliate them so they can feel good about themselves. People don't want to hear nuance. They don't want to think about issues. They just want to label and move on with their life. And if that's the way they want to be about it, and they see this, and they hear me, and they want to make judgments, so be it. But I don't care. You know, I've tried to be something in this world for at least a decade, and I didn't go nowhere. I didn't get anywhere with an audience. Nobody gives a shit what I have to say. I don't have a fan club. Nobody, you know, in this community, people actually like me. In the IRL, nobody gives a fuck who the fuck I am. You know? So what the fuck do I care anymore? You know? Sick of playing the social media game, and for a world that doesn't, I don't think they even know what is actually good for them. Where the positivity in life, using your heart instead of your fucking ego mind. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I'm some expert. But we just buy into what is being sold to us, whether it's hatred, whether it's a product, a commodity. We just, like the They Live movie, we're just consuming. And we're not putting on the glasses and seeing the world for what it really is. And maybe that's bad. Maybe if we all did see the world for what it really is, it would all just collapse. But you know what? I can't live that way. I can't live the They Live world. I have to keep the glasses on. That's the only way I know how to live. I'm not going to deceive myself into being a pawn. But I'm getting off topic. I started this podcast because I wanted to do something for the fetish community. So let's go through some maybe articles or something. I don't fully know what to do with this time, but I want to do something positive. One of the only studies that I know of in the fetish community is the one by Mark D. Griffiths. And the case study of the Brad, which is also a pseudonym, who was 22 in 2016, I suppose. So older now, and I don't want to do that math, so whatever. If you can do it quicker than I am, good for you. So I was never a fan of Brad's case, just because it was kind of convoluted, and I mean there was bias too, because you know Brad doesn't follow the paradigm that I'm used to of femdom or any of this. Brad is more almost a straight pure fart fetishist, in that he seems to just like the farting aspect. So let me read a little bit of this. Olfactorophilia, not pretty sure I said that wrong, is a paraphilia which individuals derive sexual pleasure and arousal from smells and odors. Typically, erotic focus relates to body odors of a sexual partner, including genital odors. One arguably bizarre subtype of olfactoria. See, and here's one thing is proctophilia, is the rest of that sentence, is they're already starting with the judgments. One, arguably bizarre. Now, it is arguably bizarre, but this is psychology today. Should this really start with a judgment? I don't think it should. As someone who comes from the perspective of the community, I don't think you should open your article with calling something bizarre as a judgment. Whereas, articles like Huffington Post, the head title is 50 Shades of Smell, What Sex Fetish is a Proctophilia? And it opens with, no need to steer clear of baked beans if you're dating a person with a proctophilia. And who cares what the fuck else it says? They believe they can cover these sexual fetishes that actual people have with inappropriate brevity. I'm not sitting here like I'm outraged, but it's a little This is what I mean about not controlling the conversation. If we let other people write what eproctophilia is, then we don't necessarily have control of what it is. We don't get to tell the story of what it is to us. And that's why I care so much about this. That's why I started eproctophilia.org. That's why I care about a community actually communicating and having conversations. Actually having a community, not just a place where people just share pornography and request role-playing scenarios. Like, I actually want to... Like, I joined the kink community in Los Angeles because I wanted to meet people. I honestly thought I'd meet a fetishist, or at least someone who enjoyed face-sitting. And there probably are people who enjoy face-sitting, honestly. They just don't want to talk about it in the club because face-sitting is seen as a sexual thing. So controlling the narrative is really important to me. If we let everyone else write what fart fetishism is, then we better be happy with what they're writing, because they're telling the story. They're getting to set the parameters. They're getting to set the stage for all the normies, the non-fetishists, of what our fetish is. And I think that's wrong. If they're not doing a good job of it, I think that's wrong, and we need to step up and do more. Maybe you disagree. Let me know, because I'd love to hear it. Because that's why I'm starting this podcast. That's why I decided, fuck it, and I'm just going to start it. I was going to sit here and do a script or whatever, or figure out how I was going to format it, but fuck it, There's no point in not just doing it and just starting it and trying to take back the control of what this fetish is. And at least from my perspective, I'm not sitting here saying I have all the perspectives. Like, I know everything and I get to define this fetish. I don't want to define this fetish either. But I don't appreciate who's defining it right now. I think Mark D. Griffiths, PhD, I think he's whatever. I don't appreciate this study, but I think I only don't appreciate it because it's the only one there is. Like, why? Why do one study? Why do any? Now Brad, pseudonym, gets to define the whole community anytime anyone looks up a fart fetish study or fart fetish in general. But I don't think Brad defines us. He's one of us. I'm not saying he's not a part of the community. I don't know who Brad is, a pseudonym. But I don't think he should be speaking or be the only example of our community. I'm going back to reading. Brad first contacted me after he read a blog I had written about eproctophilia. I was interested to know the roots of where his fetish began, and he explained it all started when a girl he had a crush on at school farted in science class. This appeared to have laid the foundation in Brad's early adolescence of sexual arousal being paired with flatulence. Brad's sexual orientation was far from being straightforward, as he told me, and I quote, "I could be any of the three, depending on the perspective. In terms of relationships, I am straight, heterosexual. I could only date and have romantic feelings for a female. In terms of fetishism, I am bisexual. I get aroused thinking of both males and females in these fetish situations." Now, this is abnormal. Now, anyone I've talked to has not, or anyone in the community that I've come across has not demonstrated this bisexuality. Anyone male, anyways, that I know of, and not that I know anyone that closely, but to the point, I've never experienced like anyone who did both. I can think of maybe one artist who drew both males and females farting in certain situations, but for the most part, I never saw crossover. And I don't see much, in my perspective, homosexual man-on-man or man-on-woman farting situations in the art I've seen. I don't know if that's algorithms giving me what I want, or there's less of that, or a combination of both. And that's not to say I have a disgust for like, oh my God, man, I'm not like repulsed But I have no, me personally, I heterosexual in terms of what I consume fantasy content wise, sexually in IRL, I'm mostly asexual, as I discussed on the Ask Ezra podcast. I don't really have a strong desire for intercourse or penetration, as it were. He actually, I didn't read the last sentence just now. He actually is the same. However, I have no real desire for sexual intercourse, be it penetration or being penetrated, which would make me asexual. So Brad is definitely a nuanced character, since he is a pseudonym. Brad first engaged in a proctophile act around the age of 16 or 17 years of age. He was with a male friend, and up to that point, he'd considered himself heterosexual. This was until he'd heard his male friend fart in front of him. Brad told me that the fart was appealing in sound, and he found himself fixated on it. At first, he didn't want to admit he was into farting, but eventually he decided to experiment. He set up a bet and intentionally lost, with the wager being the right to fart in the loser's face for a week. He continued to lose such bets once every few weeks over a period of 2 years. His sexual attraction to flatulence grew in young adulthood, he told me. To see a beautiful, delicate lady passing wind is a breach of those expectations in a profound manner. That a beautiful woman is capable of producing a disgusting sound or smell is what attracts us. See, he thought he could speak for the community in some ways as well by using words like us, and it makes us want to experience it. But Brad doesn't get to speak for all of us, pseudonym, because one, Brad is a pseudonym, but two, that's not everyone's experience. I don't think that's everyone's. I don't think everyone is defined by this sentence, that a beautiful woman capable of producing a disgusting sound and smell is what attracts us. I don't think that's what attracts everyone to this fetish. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's what attracts me to this fetish. So the use of the word us, and maybe it's just a, offhanded comment, but I don't appreciate being defined by one person, one pseudonymous person, to paint the whole fetish. I'm not saying we need a study of every single one of us. I doubt most of us even want to be studied. Most of us probably don't even want to talk about it. Brad's account of early erotophilic experiences are suggestive of behavioral conditioning or sexual imprinting. In this case, classical conditioning, where being sexually aroused by an attractive woman is paired with something that is not inherently sexual, in this case, flatulence, and then starts to become an erotic focus in and of itself. Brad has also very specific criteria for the behavior to be sexually arousing. The person had to fart while fully clothed, as it sounded better, and the smell was longer lasting, and the farts had to be acrid smelling. Again, very specifics, but at least the author knew to write in terms of Brad's criteria, pseudonym, not all of us. Obviously, Brad is unlikely to be representative of the entire proctophile community. I appreciate this paragraph. So further research is needed. Thank you. Where are you, Mark? We are currently carrying out interviews with other proctophiles. Let's see it. We have recruited from the online gassy erotica forum. Like most paraphilias, proctophilia appears to be found mainly in men, although the anecdotal evidence suggests it's mainly found in heterosexual males, particularly attracted to female flatulence. The accounts that I have come across suggest that farts are typically targeted at the face and sometimes more specifically at the mouth, the ear, the nose. Some claim that proctophilia is a softer form of corporophilia, in which people are sexually aroused to feces. The majority of proctophilias accept their fetish and don't believe there's anything wrong with the behavior as long as it's consensual. To put that is a little judgmenty, but I get it. It's written from a perspective of not people like us. I guess this study was actually in 2013. It's odd that it's taken him so long to talk to the other fetishists at Gassy Erotica. On my own website, where did I take my definition? From UCSB Sociology, which is now no longer there. For some reason, they've removed that page from their website. But what it did say, according to my writing, is proctophilia is a paraphilia that involves sexual arousal from flatulence. Simple enough. This arousal can come from one or more aspects of flatulence, including smell and sound, but it has also been known to be adjoined with an element of domination and humiliation. This was me adding my own bias, I guess. For others, especially in relation to heterosexual males enjoying the flatulence of females, arousal with aproctophilia lies heavily in the taboo aspect of witnessing a societally forbidden activity. That was me giving credence to Mark Griffith's argument or study, I guess, and it references it there. Many of those with aproctophilia enjoy experiencing, this is how aproctophilia works, again, according to me, because this is only me talking. Many of those with aproctophilia enjoy experiencing or fantasizing the fetish in a romantic or consensual consent, i.e. with a loving partner or trusted friend. There are those, however, me, that enjoy the context of masochism with flatulence, especially experiencing it or imagining it used as a kink element in place scene of consensual non-consent. Why aproctophilia? There's many answers to this. The Brad example was, his experience, I guess, at 16 or 17. Me, I have no idea personally. I've been fantasizing about it since early adolescence, at least probably since I was 9, I would say. No, it'd actually be a lot earlier. I remember further now, since at least the first grade. So I don't remember how old I was in the first grade, but since the first grade, I'd been fantasizing about it. So whatever experience imprinted on me had to have been very early on, because I definitely know I was fantasizing this fetish within that first year of schooling, or for the second year, I don't know, first grade. I write about related kinks to aproctophilia: face sitting, head scissors, breath play, and body worship were the ones that are obvious to me. I wrote some references to aproctophilia. Stephen King made a comment, or I guess an event from his early life. James Joyce's letters, which I think more people are familiar with. And even Ben Franklin, though I wrote not necessarily a sexual affinity, wrote a letter about the importance of farting in a letter he wrote to the Royal Academy. Perhaps as a joke, perhaps not. I'm not sure exactly how. I'm not sure about Ben Franklin's history. If you look up fart fetish right now on Google, you get an article from Men's Health, which I'm 100% sure does not open with anything respectful. People like to tie in scat play and fart fetishism together, because even this article in Men's Health, FYI, being turned on by farts is different from scat play, which entails bringing fecal matter into the sexual interaction. So yeah, I started this. I don't know if I'm doing a right thing or not, or a helpful thing, or if it matters, or if it'll even keep going, because I don't know what to talk about, on a week-to-week basis, what to say. It doesn't feel like we have a community that, people are hiding, so they don't want to reveal anything about themselves for fear of it connecting them to their real person, as opposed to their fetish pseudonym. I think that's the first step, honestly. I think the first step is to dropping those barriers as soon as we can and embracing this community, embracing it as a community, and actually coming together. If I had a location, I would love to start a community group where I am and just have people come and just chat like normal people, just to remind ourselves that we're not just some crazy fetishists behind a computer screen, that we're actually people in the real world, and we like things that aren't just farts, and we have other experiences and other things we enjoy and other things we can talk about that aren't just farting. I'm tired of feeling alone, and I'm sure many of you out there are too. I hope this, can help. I hope this can be something for our community to rally around, to get inspired by. Be yourselves. Show yourselves. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be troll-free. But I don't think anything good comes out of us hiding who we are. And we don't get to control the narrative. That's the worst part. We let other people write who we are. And I think that's wrong. And I think that's going to make what they write wrong or incorrect or lacking in nuance. But I think that's all I got for today, for this first episode, until I can figure out something more solid to do. But that's going to wrap it up for the Fart Fetish Podcast. I've been Raj. I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope you get inspired and do something and be a part of this community in an active way, in a positive way. Until then, bye now.